Well, hello to this video number 4 about the assignment, and now we will discuss the chapter 4, which is the findings. And now we are ready to write this because you actually have everything you need. Probably you could still be working on the last parts of the qualitative findings, but you are very close from finishing the last part of the findings. And from the quant findings, at this point, you are ready to actually start writing. So I will start actually with the quantitative findings. I think it's a good idea to start with that because it's very clear, concise what you need to put in the 4.1, the section 4.1. So let's take a look at the questions that your text need to answer. So first of all, what are the overall results? How can you interpret and pay attention to the descriptive statistics, the correlation matrix, and then your regression model? So that's basically what you have to present in the quant findings part. Descriptive statistics, correlation, and the three models. So let's move to the good assignment example because I think they did a good presentation of the quant findings. You go all the way to 4.1. So see, they actually start with a subsection that they call 4.1.1. And they first present the table and then later discuss it. I think this is up to you. You can do whatever you prefer. You can start with the text and then later put the table or the other way around. And basically, you only need one paragraph discussing a few interesting things from the descriptive table. So maybe what's the minimum, what's the maximum, the average, what's interesting from there. Like maybe, I think we discussed that in the workshop, the global mindset average is quite high, is like 6 point something or 7 point something is quite high. So discuss very briefly. It's only one paragraph. It's also, I mean, you cannot do a lot with this data, but it's interesting that you discuss it. One paragraph is enough. And then you present the correlation matrix again, wherever you prefer. You can start with the table or first the text and then the table. And the same thing, just write a few interesting correlations. And remember, it's just correlation, so we cannot really conclude anything. It's just a descriptive thing, correlation. So it's not anything that powerful as our regression models. That is where we will build conclusions from. But still, I think it's worth discussing correlations. So again, just one paragraph is enough. And finally, we come to the regression analysis. And in the regression analysis, it can be one paragraph, but it will be quite long because in the regression model, you need to discuss the 4 tests that we made. We even have a song for that. So you need to discuss each model if it passed the tests. So explain model 1, which is only the dependent variable and the independent variable, pass the model fit test because the model fit is significant. Also, the R square is good. Maybe it's a bit low, but we will pass it. Then there is no multicollinearity, of course, it's only one. And then the coefficient is significant and it's positive. So model 1 supports the hypothesis. And then do the same for model 2. Blah, 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 blah. This model also passed, blah, blah, the R square, multicollinearity, coefficient, and supports, blah, blah, blah. And then at the end, when you finish with the models, I think actually, if you take a look what they did, they had 3 paragraphs. So they describe or they discuss model 1, model 2, and then model 3. I mean, you can do the same, like with 3 big paragraph, 3 paragraphs or 1 big paragraph. But that's basically what you have to do. And at the end, finish with your overall conclusion. Remember, if all the models are significant, if all the models work and the coefficient is significant in the sign that you want, then it's full support for your hypothesis and you finish. That's the end of the quantitative finding. So it's very clear what you have to do, descriptive, correlations, and the regression models. And that's it. And you finish. So very clear, very concise. I think in here you don't need to have references in this. We will discuss that for chapter 5. But I think it's not needed. Maybe you can include a reference for this type of test, the F test, the BIF value, the R square. If you take a look at the list of references, there are references for these tests. So maybe include it in here, but you can also include that in the trustworthiness discussion. But beyond that, this section does not need references, especially the quant findings. And then 4.2, we have the qualitative findings. And here it's also not, here is a bit more complex. It's not as simple as with the quant findings, because the quant findings is these things and that's it. But in qual, it depends on what you found. Maybe you found many new aggregates, or maybe you found two aggregates that are very different and very complex. Maybe you need more space to discuss them. So it's a bit complex, but the main idea of the qualitative findings is that you discuss what you found from the interviews. And to do that, one approach is as it is in here, that maybe you discuss the aggregates, the aggregate level or the themes that you found, and discuss them kind of one by one in a way. Like, for example, I think for them, they discussed the personal values is like a big topic, and then they had the smaller themes as these egoistic values, the biospheric values, altruistic values. So then they had like the big topic, personal values, and then the smaller topic. This is very linked to the data structure that you did with Victoria. So you can even include the data structure. I don't know if they included it in an appendix. Yeah, they did. So try to discuss the data structure in this 4.2 section. And an important thing in here, maybe you are wondering if you need references for that 4.2. And the answer is no. You do not need to have references if you prefer. You can just have it can be just a description of what happened, very empirical, and make sure that you include quotes from the interviews. So that's the evidence that you have. So for example, if you say that personal values were important and these values, and then you include a quote from that. As you can see in this example, they did include some references, and it's possible you can do it like that. It's kind of a fashion thing. What do you prefer? Like, some people like to include already, it's kind of doing a short discussion already in the findings. You can include a few key references when you discuss the themes that emerge, that they are relevant, but it's not necessarily. That is very important in the discussion. In here, you can do it more descriptive, more empirical. This for section 4, the findings. And I mean, like, you can see they included a few, but maybe if you prefer to do it like that, if you think it will help you, you can do it, but it's not mandatory. It's mandatory in chapter 5. And that's it. That's about discussing the qualitative findings. So it's basically discussing what you found, the themes and the aggregates that you found. And also, if you think it's important, discuss how they are connected. Like, maybe one aggregate is connected to another, and maybe you want to discuss that, and always provide many evidence with quotes from the interviews. And then I think that if you take a look at the assignment page, we have qualitative model. This example, they didn't include it, but if you want, I think it can be a good idea that you kind of map the findings in a visual way. So maybe you can position your aggregates or your themes in a way that you can show how it looks like. It's a possibility. And finally, the last small section is just like a kind of quick wrap up or overlap of both findings, like the quant and the qual. So it doesn't need to be that big. It's only maybe just like one concluding paragraph saying like, we tested and we actually found a relationship and it's positive or negative. And how and that happens is because this, and these factors are very important. They interact in this way. That's it. Very simple. So remember, it's not mandatory to have many references. That will be important in the next chapter.